Gabe, how's it going today? What was your impressions of the Iowa game?
Yeah, my impressions pretty much are that we had a lot of great moments, but we just didn't do enough, specifically on defense. Now, I don't want to say I told you so when it came to this game being a shootout, despite Iowa's identity, but the thing is, Rutgers has followed what they've been doing this whole year, which is look great on offense, look abysmal on defense. And this is the first time that we've had to pay for it. And this is also the first game that has been, first off, in conference that we played, and second off, the first game that all eyes were shining on us. And we didn't get it done. Ethan went 12 of 14 to start the game. He finished the rest of the game 12 of 26. He had his first interception of the year. It was definitely his worst showing of the year. I mean, he still had 330 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. So if that's his worst showing of the year, it's a damn good worst showing of the year. Antoine Raymond ran the ball 18 times to Jashon Benjamin's 2. We got some terrible news out of the running back situation, unfortunately. C.J. Campbell is out for the year, which is a huge blow because it was expected that him and Antoine would be splitting carries all year. The tight end performance I was happy with. Kenny Fletcher, 3 catches, 24 yards. Colin Weber, 2 for 11. So we got them involved, but it was still the quote-unquote big 3 offense in the receiving game that did most of the damage. DT got 3 catches, I believe, all in the first quarter, and then he was just a no-show for the rest of the game. And on defense, I mean, I think you said this yesterday to me, at least, but the transfers on defense just aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not doing what we brought them in to do, which is to contain the passing game and make the running game, sort of manageable on defense, and they're not doing that.
Yeah, great points. And I think this was a really disappointing loss because, like we talked about on this show so many times, Rutgers was likely to go 3-0 to start the season, but that 4th game was going to be the game where they really had to break through. Like last year when they were 3-0 going into Lincoln, Nebraska. They didn't get it done last year, didn't get it done this year. And 3 things really stuck out to me about this game. Number one, a tale of 2 halves. 21 points in the first half, only 7 points in the second half. And that tells me that they weren't making the right adjustments, and Iowa was.
Yeah.
Didn't put together a full game. The second thing, and this, is just like last year, injuries. C.J. Campbell out for the year, and a slew of players were out. And even Shiano said at many positions he was down to, the 2s because of the, number of injuries. And 3, the defense inconsistent. Mm-hmm. In the first half, the defense played for most of the first 2 quarters quite well. Not the case in the second half. So what we saw here was reminiscent of last year, where you put together one good half, and then another half where just not nearly as productive. And it comes down also to the little things. That interception really, really hurt us. So what kind of disappoints me is that there were flashes of greatness last night, but then there were times when it was the same old Rutgers football. That's why you saw 2 different halves. We lose the turnover battle. The defense is inconsistent, and once again, the injuries. So I'm very disappointed.
Yeah, I'm disappointed too, and I can tell you're disappointed because you don't even have SHI behind you. It's just a house.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm in my house in the great state of New Jersey. Always great to be back in New Jersey.
Who's that man over there in the painting?
Ah, that's my father. Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Looks very well done. Very sharp.
Thank you very much.
What wasn't sharp, unfortunately, as we're talking about, is the defense. I was listening to Mark's show yesterday, his post-game show with Rutgers, Iowa, and there was an Iowa fan that called in, and this game had her talking like they were ready to beat Penn State in a few weeks. That's how bad we looked defensively against them. And Mark Gronowski, she was saying, looks like the best Iowa quarterback that she's seen in her lifetime. Mark Gronowski, I believe he's the all-time winningest college football quarterback ever. I might be mistaken if there's some other team. I believe that he is. So he's a winning player, but he's not an elite quarterback, in my opinion. And we made him look like an elite, not just quarterback, but a running back. 13 for 55 with 3 touchdowns. Granted, Ethan had 2, but that's unacceptable. We've had problems against the mobile quarterback all year. Even looking at Miami of Ohio, and Ohio, it was expected that Parker Navarro would look like a one-man show, but he made it look like a 4 or 5-man show on offense. But Mark Gronowski really did make this a one-man show. I mean, the passing, he was 12 of 18, right? 186 yards, but his 12 completions were to 8 different receivers, none of them with more than 3 catches. So he was spreading the ball out, and that made it unpredictable for our defense because he wasn't just attacking and isolating a Jet Elot, a Cam Miller. He was attacking the entire defense. And, we had a couple 3-and-outs, which I was happy with, but they did this without their best running back this year, Xavier Williams. He was hurt this game, and they still attacked us on the ground, and they still got 4 touchdowns out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we talked about on several shows was for Rutgers to have a successful season, they got to do the little things right and put together a complete game. This was not only a tale of 2 halves, but the little things really hurt us. And let's start with the least of all places you'd suspect, special teams. To start off the game, what was it, a 95-yard kickoff return for a touchdown for the Hawkeyes. And then Jai Patel missing a 37-yard field goal. And then
but that was because of a penalty, though. That's what was killing us was the penalties. Because he made the previous one, and then he lost 5 yards out of it.
I lost 5 yards, but he still missed it. And I get your point. But then we have another field goal that's blocked, and you bring up penalties. Well,
we got some Ducks in the audience.
We got some Oregon Ducks in the audience. Oh, is that true? Okay, let's see.
Yeah,
will the Ducks quack in Piscataway after this game? It suggests that they very well may. But so we're losing the special teams battle. We're losing the turnover battle with that interception that you really can't put on Ethan because he was under such duress.
No, it was a fly ball.
Yeah, and we're losing the penalty battle. So apart from the more broader things, which is really not adjusting well and having one half of Jekyll and the other one of Hyde, the little things did not go our way. And when you put all that together, that leads to a loss.
So are you a fan of, well, not a fan, but do you believe in taking away positives from a loss? Not that it's a moral victory, because we need every damn 50-50 game we can get, but do you believe in taking away some positives?
I believe in learning from a loss.
So not necessarily, because I was going to say Iowa only allowed 16 points to Iowa State, and we scored 28 on them, 21 in the first half.
I would say, in my view, I don't want to focus on the positives. I want to focus on the things you can learn. I mean, certainly there's positives to take away. Ethan threw for 330 yards. On the first 3 drives, we drove the ball at will. But then what can we learn from the fact that after that, we only scored 1 touchdown? Well, Iowa made adjustments. What adjustments did we make?
And we've been good with adjustments so far this year, granted against weaker competition, but we've looked better for the most part in second halves besides 1 quarter against Ohio.
True. I agree. But you know what? If you're going to win, you got to put together a complete game, and you got to win the little things, penalties, turnovers, special teams, time of possession. We just didn't do that. And what Iowa did was they made adjustments, and we weren't prepared for that. And our defense, we've got a lot of transfers on defense who just don't seem to be living up to the expectations. So, there's positives, but I think there's a lot to learn, and I hope we do, because guess what? Minnesota, Washington, Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State is coming up.
It's more than concerns at this point. It's valid fear. And, you're talking about the transfer defense. At least I will say Eric O'Neill finally had himself a good game as a Scarlet Knight. He had 2 tackles for loss, 4 tackles altogether, and he had a key sack that led to a 4th down. Donovan and I were talking in your absence on Monday about how this is a game for players moving forward, how this is going to affect their futures, because it's the first game that everyone has their eyes on, because it's Friday night. It's two teams who are both formidable, and Ethan showed up. He made himself look like he could be on an NFL roster. Antoine Raymond, 3.4 yards per carry, but he still had 2 touchdowns. And the receiving duo of Strong and Duff, and they've been the story all year, right? As far as the receivers go, DT has done inconsistently okay, I want to say, but it's really been those 4 guys that I mentioned: the Strong, Duff, Eric O'Neill, and Ethan that have stepped up, and it seems like they're the ones who realize that this is a game not just for the team but for themselves moving forward.
Well, yeah, and one of the things we also talked about is consistency. Consistency is everything. You start out the first half, you're on fire, scoring 21 points. Rest of the game, only 7 points. What's the cause of that? What can you learn from that? Because in addition to not doing the little things or winning the little things, we're not consistent. And I got to tell you, what disappoints me is it seems like we haven't made much progress from last year. It seems like the same things are affecting us. Injuries, inconsistency, one good half, one bad half. That's not going to lead to a winning season when you got the schedule that we have. So what I would take away from this loss was, again, like last year, this was an opportunity for us to get over the hump, and we didn't do it. And I think that this does not bode well given what's coming up.
So you mentioned that you don't think we've made progress. I think we've made progress, and then we've also digressed, in depending on the area. We've made progress on special teams for the most part, just we can't defend the damn kickoff return. And that happened on the first play of the game, and it almost happened on the last play of the first half. And so you can say we got lucky and we still lost by 10. You can also say that we lost ourselves this game because of the penalty battles, the turnovers, the defense, the field position. But we did get some key 3-and-outs. We did hold them to field goals when there were touchdowns to be had. They had the ball on our 35, and they only got a field goal out of it. So it depends on if you see the glass half empty or half full. And so it was not a great start to the game, but to me, what the biggest difference is the fact that we, once again, had a big quarter allowed. And sure, we gave up 14 in the first quarter. We also scored 14. The fact is the scores mirrored each other until the fourth quarter. And Mark said it last night on his post-game show. He said that Iowa remembered who they are, and Rutgers remembered who they are in the fourth quarter. Iowa remembered that they lose to, and I quote, bottom-tier Big Ten teams, and Rutgers remembered that they lose those close games. I don't know if that's necessarily true this year, but it's so far looking that way, just off of the one game. So to any of the players watching, any of the players that are hearing this, use it as fuel, because the founder of Voice of College Football seems to think that this team might not do that well this year. And based off of last night and based off of our competition, you guys have to prove us wrong.
Yeah, and that's why. And look, I know the players work hard. They're dedicated. They want to win, and we're not criticizing the players. But when you look at the overall picture here, okay, when Rutgers is playing a team of Iowa's caliber, okay, where the talent level is similar, if not a little bit in Iowa's favor, you cannot allow a 95-yard kickoff return. You cannot throw an interception. You cannot miss 2 field goals. You cannot get over penalized. You're doing the things that are going to lead to a loss against any team that has comparable talent. And that's why this game was an opportunity for them to show consistency and discipline. And they didn't do it. And it just seemed like Iowa had the will to win more, or was more gritty in that fourth quarter. We're up 28-24 with 9 minutes left.
Yeah.
Right? You have to win that game. Instead, we let them march down the damn field. And when you look at the combination of the little things that all went against us, and you look at the broader thing, which is the lack of consistency, of course it's going to lead to a loss, and it's going to lead to 6 losses, even 7 losses, given our schedule, if these things aren't fixed.
Nope. And so far this year in 4 games, 3 against very weak competition in comparison to Big Ten play, we have not allowed a running group to average less than 4 yards against us. And if you do the math, right, you get 3 plays to get a first down in the first 3.5 quarters. And that means that on average, you give it up every play that they run the ball, because we can't allow 3.3 yards or less just one game, even against Norfolk State. You know, they weren't passing the ball well. We were having great offense, but the rushing attack, it was still there. They put up, I believe it was 128 yards rushing against us. Ohio ran all over the place against us. Miami of Ohio did what Ohio did, but had some turnovers that led to us blowing them out. And this game, you know, Mark Gronowski, 4.2 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. Their running back replacing Williams, Kamari Moulton, 14 carries for 68 yards, 4.9 average, and a touchdown. And Jazoom Patterson, 6 carries, 37 yards, 6.2 yards per carry. And they had a rush by McNeil, 1 for 10 yards. So that's the biggest weakness easily this year, is our rushing defense. Our passing defense has definitely improved, and Mark Gronowski is the best quarterback that we've faced this year. You know, Parker Navarro looked the best against us, but Mark Gronowski was the best player, the best quarterback against us, and we contained him in the passing game a little bit. He still had 66.7% percentage completion, still had 186 yards, but no touchdowns, no interceptions, QBR of 70.5. So the passing defense did its job tonight. It's the running defense, and that's got to change. Something has to change. Shiano needs full control of that defense. I think we're still recovering from just how scrambled this defense is compared to last year.
Yeah, and, you know, in games against teams like Iowa, you know, 4 or 5 plays are going to decide the game. Iowa made the plays when they needed to. We didn't. And it kind of seems like the same old story. And when is that going to change? And as far as the defense goes, they did get more of a push against Iowa, against a very big Iowa offensive line. But you got to still contain the quarterback.
Yeah.
All right, you got a running quarterback. Doesn't matter how much pressure you got if you're not keeping contained. And in critical spots, Gronowski, you know, was very effective. Now, is he a great quarterback? No. But, you know, we're getting ready to play against Julian Sand, against Drew Aller, okay? Yeah. You know, and that does not bode well for us if these things aren't fixed. And when I see the number of injuries we have, and I see the fact that we're losing those key plays that define a game and not doing all the little things right, it doesn't bode well for a season that will lead to at least a bowl game.
Yeah, you know, I'm really looking forward to this Indiana-Illinois game coming up, because to me that says a lot about how good Illinois is, and we have to face them too. And, you know, depending on how they play, you could throw them in the Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State realm of competition. So for that sake, I'm hoping Indiana blows them out of the water. But Illinois is still a ranked school. They're ranked above Michigan. They're ranked above Notre Dame. Like, they're a good school. They're a really good school. We lost to them barely last year. That's going to be another key game. Now, look, Donovan and I were talking about on Monday, you know, who knows? Maybe you could make the playoffs. We're not making the playoffs. That was really just like a pep talk to see, like, can you win these 50-50 games, these swing state type of games? And right now, we just lost the swing state game, the first swing state game of the year. There's like still 8 or 9 left. Well, that doesn't mathematically add up. There's still like 6 left, and we're 0-1. We need to just be respectable. This is a tougher year than last year. Can we have the same record against a tougher schedule? That's the question.
Well, I think right now the answer is probably no. This Illinois team that we're facing is one of the best Illinois teams in years. Luke Altmaier is really doing a great job at quarterback. They have legitimate wideouts. They have a strong defense, and we're going to Champaign, Illinois for this game. So I don't think it's going to lead to a very good result out of Illinois. And I think when you look at our schedule, not to say again like the players aren't trying hard, but there's glaring weaknesses that just don't seem to have been fixed after the first 3 games.
Nope.
Jason L makes a perfect comment here. They're losing running backs coming out of the backfield, and guys are getting wide open on simple plays while defenders are bunched up out of position.
That's a good summary.
It's true. Some of these receivers were wide open, and it's just what I saw yesterday was. I hate to say it, but people say same old Rutgers.
Yeah. Based on how they're playing so far, it's unreasonable to see anything other than Rutgers, Ohio State, Rutgers, Penn State, Rutgers, Oregon, even Rutgers, Illinois being anything other than a blowout by halftime. And I hate to say it.
Well, and you know something, Gabe, and I know that I'll get criticized a lot for this, but, Coach Schiano has been a fantastic coach for Rutgers, but there's only so much of this that I think he's going to want to tolerate. And I don't see him sticking around as the head football coach for the next 5, 6, 7 years if this situation doesn't improve, because the stress on him and the disappointment he must feel has to be tremendous. Now, he's brought Rutgers to legitimacy, not only in his first stint, but once again now, but to see the same pattern over and over, I worry that Coach Schiano at some point is going to say, I've done what I can, and now it's time to move on with life. And I hope that doesn't happen, but I think that the chances increase as Rutgers fails to improve each year.
Yeah. Well, he's definitely here for this year. There's no question about that. And I would assume he's here for next year. I don't know how far down the line. I would have to agree with you on that. I hope that I'm wrong too. But another motivator that has kept him around is setting these guys up for the future, for making the league. We saw there were 3 draft picks this year in the NFL, and 2 of them didn't stick around on the team. One of them is out for the year, Robert Longerbeam. I think he'll be fine, but he was a 6th-round pick, so who knows? And then Kyle Monangai is still on the Bears. He's their solidified backup running back. But, who would you say our best player was last year? I would say it's Holland Pierce, and Holland Pierce didn't even make the Eagles practice squad. There's so when you look at that aspect, it's like setting guys up long term. Are like they really doing as good long term as you would expect a Schiano-led squad to lead these guys to be? I'm not sure. But going back to this game, one key stat I took away that seems kind of overlooked is we had a pass deflection on defense that was from Jacoby Henderson. They had 8 pass deflections. They had 3 by TJ Hall, 3 by Zach Lutmer, and then they had 1 by Deshaun Lee and 1 by Max Llewellyn. So 1 to 8, that's a differential of 7 pass deflections. That's a big difference, especially when you're looking at an Iowa defense. When you're 8th in the second half and you go 12 of 26 to finish off the game, that's going to cost us, especially when your spectacular play, Ethan, has been what's led us to 3-0 before last night. So 12 of 26, and I assume most of those pass deflections were in the second half. It was getting this defense confident back to where they normally are.
Well, that's why Mark Rogers said Iowa became who they are. Rutgers became who they are. Ethan just didn't become a bad quarterback in the second half, but Iowa made adjustments on defense, made it much more difficult for him. And Jason O makes a good comment. It is a little strong for me to use the word fantastic. He has been a great program builder, but Jason has a point that as far as game day coaching, what I'm seeing is that we're good for a half. The other team makes adjustments, and that's why you see Ethan passing, I think he was 12 of 14 or whatever it may have been in the first half, and then 12 of 26 in the second. Iowa is adjusting. We are not. Iowa is winning the special teams. Iowa is winning the turnover battle. Iowa is making the key plays, okay? Iowa's blocking field goals. Iowa's defense is clamping down in the second half when it matters. Iowa's winning the fourth quarter. I could go on, but that's the recipe for a loss, and that's why it happened.
I mean, I would say awful game day coach is a bit harsh, though, when you look at how our rosters have been before this year and last year, really. We've had some great players, but it's been very top heavy. I don't know if you can really call Shiano an awful game day coach. There have been some schemes that have looked a little bit off, sure. But how much of that can you attribute to him versus our defensive coordinators, maybe the staff that he hires, which you could say is to some degree lying on him, but like at what point are coordinators their own people? At what point are players their own people? And how much does that fall on Shiano? So I wouldn't say he's an awful game day coach. I would say he's not top 10. He's not top 20, probably not top 30, but I don't know if I can use that A word with Shiano.
Okay, well, fair enough. And I think, though, that there are areas to improve, of course, in game day coaching. But when I look at what I saw last night, it just looked like, well, same old Rutgers. They're going to be very competitive, but they're eventually going to lose. I mean, the fourth quarter is where you win games when you're playing a really good team. Yeah. Little things weren't done right. Consistency wasn't there. And, like you said, DT, 3 catches in the first maybe 3 drives. And then what happened after that? They made adjustments. We didn't. So what are we going to do against Illinois, at Minnesota, at Washington, Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State? That's potentially 6 losses. And we're looking at a 5-7 season at this point.
Yeah, I mean, because the rest of the year, Purdue is the only team that I can confidently say we're going in there, we should win. Maryland is probably a close second. So to me, it's like 4-8 is technically our floor, but who knows what our ceiling is. And the rest of those games, besides Maryland and Purdue, we're probably not going to be favored in. That's the rest of the year. Besides 2 games, we're probably not going to be favored in.
Yeah, I mean, there's games that, realistically speaking, games you should lose, games you should win. But in the middle of that, there are the winnable games.
Yeah.
We don't win the winnable games, and there's no excuse for that. I mean, I'm not trying to be too harsh on the players. I know they work really hard, but the winnable games are the ones where if you do the right things, you should be successful. We're on our home field in front of a sold-out crowd of about 55,000 people in a winnable game, not a should win or a should lose.
Yeah.
That's where you have to show that you can get over the hump. And, just like Nebraska last year, where we had problems on special teams, we lost the turnover battle. We couldn't punch it in from the 3 on 1st and goal. Same story over and over again.
Yeah, I really wanted to beat those damn Huskers last year because I'm not a fan of Dylan Ravioli's play, but that's just me. In terms of this year, you know what it is? I don't even want to give out too much free game, but I think the defenses are over-analyzing DT's potential impact because of all the rankings, all the watch lists that he's been on, and they're not looking at Strong and Duff enough. And that's why I think they're having great games. Ian Strong has been the focal point, it seems like. And then KJ Duff has just made miraculous catches. But DT has not had his Rutgers moment yet. He had 1 play against Ohio, and that was a great touchdown. But outside of that, he hasn't looked like the DT Sheffield of North Texas. And, yeah, it's North Texas compared to Rutgers, compared to Big Ten play, compared to whatever. But DT hasn't been DT Sheffield yet. And I think he will be at some point. I'm not counting him out, but especially games where Ian Strong and KJ Duff are covered. But that's what's missing right now in terms of like the games against Iowa is what takes you from 28 points, allowing 38 obviously doesn't help, to 35 points to 42 points. What takes us from losing these kind of games to finding a way to win even with the defense? Like how can we be the Cincinnati Bengals, Like maybe not of the past year or two, but how can we be the Cincinnati Bengals? How can we be not the 2013 Broncos because that's historically great, but how can we be an offense that can overshadow a defense that's struggling?
Consistency, doing the little things right, discipline, and I don't see those right now. It's a situation where with our schedule coming up, it doesn't bode well. But it is what it is, and we're always here to support Rutgers football. But so to kind of bring this full circle and wrap it up, what are the three major takeaways that you have from this game, and how do you see us going forward?
So first off, we have to change something defensively, not just like reading stuff better, but we need to scheme better. We need to try something else. Maybe run a 4-3. Maybe it's running more zone coverage instead of man. Maybe it's more blitzes. There's something that needs to happen. We did get 2 sacks this game, one from Cam Miller on a blitz, so maybe that's a telltale sign. But more importantly, the second thing, and this kind of ties into the first thing, but how do we figure out how to stop a run game? Whether it's Iowa, whether it's moving forward Ohio State, Oregon, or whether it was just Norfolk State or going forward Purdue, Maryland. We need to figure out just one game. That's all I ask, Rutgers. Please, just one game where we stop the damn run, and I will be a happy camper because that will give me another sign of hope. Until we stop a run game, I have no hope because that is one dimension of offense that is guaranteed, and they'll run it down our throats no matter who we're playing. And the third thing is, Ethan, how do you bounce back? You had a pedestrian second half, and you got away with it against Ohio. You won't get away with it against Iowa. You won't get away with it against Illinois. You won't get away with it against other Big Ten play. So, Ethan, how do you bounce back? You got a good receiving core. You had a great coach. We lose C.J. Campbell, but we have some good running backs, whether it's Antoine Raymond or Deshaun Benjamin, who I hope is used a little more than twice next week moving forward. You have some good tight ends, and we're starting to use them a lot more, which I'm happy about. Even if it's pedestrian gains, it's still keeping the defense guessing. So in terms of defense, we need to scheme better. We need to stop the run. And then on offense, how do we bounce back? How does the captain of the team on offense bounce back?
Yeah, those are all great points. I say for my three things, number one, the defense, not just the run defense, but even the secondary. Got to be more disciplined and got to play a full game. Number two, adjustments at halftime, okay? We come out looking great, and in the second half, they completely shut us down. The same thing happened against Ohio, where we were dominating in the first half. I think we were up 31-17 at the half or something like that.
31-14 at one point, I think.
31-14, and then Ohio makes it a game in the second half. Okay, so, it comes down to you can kind of see major improvements on defense. Number two, you got to make the right adjustments. And number three, against good teams, you can't do the little things. You have to do the little things right. I mean, you can't be allowing a 95-yard kickoff return, missing 2 field goals and leaving 6 points on the board and getting over penalized.
Yeah.
So,
if you think about it, it's a 10-point swing between the kickoff return touchdown because we had a 3-and-out the next drive against them. So there's a 10-point swing between that and the missed field goal, and that would have made it a tied game.